Have you ever watched someone in a suit confidently announce a problem so huge that everyone around them simply gave up? And have you ever wondered what happens when the one person nobody believes in refuses to quit? This is the story of a struggling single dad who walked into a luxury car dealership and was told a repair would cost $200,000. The experts were certain. The managers agreed. The customer was devastated. But what happened next shocked everyone in the building, and it all started with a tiny $14 part. Before we begin, if you enjoy heartwarming stories about compassion, second chances, and the power of kindness, please subscribe to Heart Kindness Tales, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories to people around the world. Marcus Bennett was no stranger to hard days. At 38 years old, he was raising his 10-year-old daughter, Lily, on his own. Since his wife had passed away several years earlier, every day felt like a balancing act. He worked long hours as a mechanic at a small neighborhood garage in Ohio and spent every spare moment making sure Lily had everything she needed. Money was always tight. Their apartment was small. Their car was old. And some months, Marcus had to choose between fixing something in the apartment or putting a little extra food on the table. Still, he never complained. Things could always be worse, he often told Lily with a smile. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, Marcus was delivering parts to a luxury dealership across town. The place looked more like a five-star hotel than a repair shop. Shiny cars sat under bright lights, and employees walked around in expensive suits. As Marcus unloaded the boxes, he noticed a commotion near one of the service bays. A woman stood beside a black luxury SUV, tears forming in her eyes. A dealership manager held a clipboard while speaking in a serious tone. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the manager said. "The electrical system has catastrophic damage. Replacing everything will cost approximately $200,000. The woman's face turned pale. "200,000, she whispered. The manager nodded. "I'm afraid so." Marcus couldn't help overhearing. The woman looked completely defeated. "This vehicle belonged to my husband," she said softly. "He passed away 6 months ago. It's all I have left of him." The room fell silent. Marcus felt a knot form in his stomach. He knew that look. It was the look of someone carrying more pain than anyone could see. As the manager walked away, Marcus approached carefully. "Excuse me," he said. "Would you mind if I took a quick look?" The woman gave a tired smile. "The dealership already checked everything." "I know," Marcus replied. "But sometimes a second set of eyes doesn't hurt." The service manager overheard and laughed. "You," he said. "You think you can solve what our master technicians couldn't?" Marcus shrugged. "Maybe not. But kindness costs less than giving up." The woman nodded. "Go ahead." Marcus opened the hood. For the next 20 minutes, he quietly inspected wires, sensors, and connectors. Employees occasionally glanced over and smirked. One technician whispered, "This should be entertaining." Another laughed. Marcus ignored them. Years of working on old cars had taught him something valuable. Big problems often came from small causes. Eventually, he spotted something unusual. Near one of the main electrical modules was a tiny burnt connector. It looked insignificant. Most people would never notice it. Marcus removed it carefully. Then he checked a nearby fuse assembly. There it was. A small component that had failed and caused the entire system to malfunction. Marcus smiled. "Found you." The replacement part cost $14. 14. Not 14,000. Not 40,000. Just $14. He purchased the part from a supplier nearby and returned an hour later. The dealership employees watched with amusement. The manager folded his arms. "This ought to be good." Marcus installed the part and reconnected the system. Then he turned the key. The engine started instantly. Dashboard warnings disappeared. Screens lit up normally. Every system came back to life. For a moment, nobody said a word. The service bay became completely silent. Then one technician gasped. "No way." Another stared at the dashboard. "You're kidding me." The woman covered her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. "It works?" she asked. Marcus nodded. "It works." She burst into tears. Not because of the car. Because someone had cared enough to try. The dealership manager looked stunned. His face turned bright red. He reviewed the diagnostics repeatedly, unable to believe what had happened. Meanwhile, the woman hugged Marcus tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't owe me thanks," Marcus replied. "You gave me hope when everyone else gave me a bill." The story could have ended there. But kindness has a funny way of creating ripples. A customer sitting in the waiting area had witnessed the entire scene. He happened to be the owner of a large automotive company. The next day, he visited Marcus's garage. "I heard about what happened," he said. Marcus smiled awkwardly. "It wasn't a big deal." The man shook his head. "It was a very big deal." A week later, Marcus received an offer. The company wanted him to lead a new diagnostic division. The salary was more than double what he had ever earned. The benefits would secure Lily's future. Marcus was speechless. But the surprises weren't over. The woman whose vehicle he had repaired returned a month later. She brought a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. It explained how much that SUV meant to her because it was one of the last connections to her late husband. She also included a photograph of Marcus and Lily standing together at a community event. On the back she had written, "Your kindness repaired more than a car. It repaired a piece of my heart." Marcus kept that photo on his desk for years. Whenever life became difficult, he would look at it and remember an important truth. Most people think changing the world requires wealth, power, or influence. But often, it starts with a simple decision to care. The dealership technicians learned that lesson too. Many of them later admitted they had focused only on expensive solutions because they assumed the problem had to be complicated. Marcus reminded them that listening, patience, and humility are just as important as expertise. And Lily learned something even more valuable. One evening, she asked her father, "Dad, why did you help that lady when everyone else gave up?" Marcus smiled. "Because someday, Lily, you might be the person who needs someone to believe in you." Years later, she would remember those words. The truth is, kindness doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's listening when someone feels alone. Sometimes it's offering help when nobody asks. And sometimes it's refusing to walk away when everyone else says a problem can't be solved. A $14 part fixed a luxury SUV. But a compassionate heart changed several lives. So the next time you have the chance to help someone, don't underestimate the difference you can make. Your kind words may be the hope someone desperately needs. Your effort may be the reason they keep going. And your compassion may create a ripple that reaches farther than you ever imagine. Because in a world that often expects the worst, kindness remains one of the most powerful forces we have. And just like Marcus discovered, the smallest act of kindness can sometimes be worth far more than $200,000. The news of what happened at the luxury dealership spread faster than Marcus could have imagined. Within days, customers from all over town began showing up at his small garage. Some came because they needed repairs.
Others came because they wanted to meet the mechanic who had saved a woman from a $200,000 bill with a simple $14 part. Marcus didn't enjoy the attention. He was the kind of person who preferred fixing engines to being in the spotlight. But business was growing. For the first time in years, the garage was busy every day. His boss, Frank, couldn't stop smiling. "You've put this place on the map," Frank said one morning. Marcus laughed. "I just fixed a car." "No," Frank replied. "You helped a person." Those words stayed with him. A few weeks later, Marcus was working late when an old pickup truck pulled into the garage parking lot. The driver was an elderly man named Walter. The truck looked like it had survived every winter storm in Ohio. Walter stepped out slowly and handed Marcus a repair estimate from another shop. The total was nearly $9,000. The old man's hands trembled. "I can't afford this," he said quietly. "Without my truck, I can't get to my medical appointments." Marcus studied the paperwork. Something didn't feel right. He inspected the vehicle carefully. After about an hour, he discovered that most of the repairs weren't necessary. The actual problem could be fixed for less than $200. Walter looked shocked. "Are you serious?" Marcus nodded. The old man sat down and began to cry. Not loud tears. Just quiet tears of relief. "You don't understand," Walter said. "I thought I was going to lose everything." Marcus placed a hand on his shoulder. "No one should have to choose between transportation and survival." Walter smiled through his tears. That afternoon, Marcus repaired the truck himself. When Walter asked how much he owed, Marcus simply shook his head. "Merry Christmas," he said. "But it's July," Walter replied. Marcus grinned. Kindness doesn't follow a calendar. Walter drove away with tears in his eyes. What Marcus didn't know was that someone had witnessed the entire interaction. A young local reporter sitting across the street had seen everything. The following Sunday, a newspaper article appeared with the headline, "Mechanic keeps choosing people over profit." The story exploded online. Thousands of people shared it. Comments poured in from across the country. Many readers said the story restored their faith in humanity. Meanwhile, Marcus continued living exactly as before. He still packed Lily's school lunches. He still worked long hours. And he still believed every customer deserved honesty. One evening, Lily came home from school carrying a small notebook. "Dad," she said excitedly, "our teacher asked us to write about our hero." Marcus smiled. "Who did you choose?" "You." Marcus nearly dropped his coffee. "Me?" Lily nodded. "You help people when nobody else will." Marcus felt his throat tighten. Out of all the compliments he had received recently, none meant more than that. A few days later, something unexpected happened. The woman whose SUV Marcus had repaired returned once again. This time she wasn't alone. With her were several local business owners. They had all heard the story. Together, they presented Marcus with a surprise. A community fund had been created. Its purpose was simple. Whenever families faced emergency vehicle repairs they couldn't afford, the fund would help cover the costs. The woman smiled warmly. "You inspired this." Marcus stared at the group in disbelief. "I didn't do anything special." "You did," she said softly. "You reminded people what kindness looks like." Within months, dozens of struggling families received help. Single parents, veterans, elderly residents, college students trying to stay afloat. Every repaired vehicle represented another life made a little easier. One act of kindness had become hundreds. Then one evening, after closing the garage, Marcus stood outside watching the sunset with Lily. The parking lot was empty. The air was calm. "Dad?" Lily asked. Yeah. Do you think helping people really changes the world? Marcus looked toward the horizon. Then he smiled. I think it changes somebody's world. Lily thought about that for a moment. Then she slipped her hand into his. And for Marcus, that was all the proof he needed. Because the truth is, kindness rarely makes headlines. Most acts of kindness happen quietly. A helping hand. A second chance. A few extra minutes spent caring about someone else's problem. But those small moments matter. They can lift someone out of despair. They can restore hope. And sometimes, they can create a chain reaction that reaches people you've never even met. Marcus never set out to become a hero. He simply chose compassion when it would have been easier to walk away. And that choice changed lives. The woman got to keep a precious memory of her husband. Walter kept his independence. Families received help when they needed it most. And a little girl learned what true character looks like. All because one man believed that people matter more than profit. And that's the beautiful thing about kindness. You never know how far it will travel. You never know whose life it will touch. And you never know when a small act today will become someone else's miracle tomorrow. To be continued in Part 3. Red Heart.